Keith. Thank you, Keith. Good afternoon, and thank you all for being here today. The New Orleans homicide rate is the lowest in 50 years. We've had 3 years of sustained public safety success, but I really just want to make a point with these partners today that this is not the time to wave a victory flag. This is a time to take stock and ensure that we don't backslide. We need to talk about what's working. Let's lock those things in. Let's talk about where we're headed, what obstacles are in our way and to that mission. But 3 years of sustained success means that New Orleanians, all of us, elected, appointed, every single resident, that we have what it takes to reduce and prevent crime in our city. That we collectively have the capacity to do better than we have really in our lifetimes. I'm 53 years old, born in 1972. We're at an inflection point with an immense opportunity ahead of us. I'm pleased to be joined by several really amazing partners, some of them in my office, some of them external partners, through whose leadership in their respective agencies and disciplines have been on the front lines of working together to bring our crime numbers down. With us today, we have Josh Jackson, Special Agent in charge of ATF, Enoch Smith, United States Marshal, Brian Fair, Deputy United States Marshal, Andrew Conklin, Deputy United States Marshal, Raphael Goyeneche, Head of the Metropolitan Crime Commission, Michael Heck, President and CEO of GNO Inc. On my right, Matthew Dervis, the Chief of our Homicide Unit, Daniel Shanks, the Director of Strategic Initiatives, really bird-dogging our No Dice program over the past several years with a lot of success. Andre Godin, who is the head of our screening initiative, who put district screeners in every single police district so that we could work together to build stronger cases. Ernest Johnson from Ubuntu Village, Roberta Dublique, and Danny Allen from Ubuntu Village, and Aaron Washington, the Chief of our Investigative Bureau. Over the past year, New Orleans has driven measurable reductions in violent crime. And that progress, as you all know, as you've already reported, was not accidental. It happened because law enforcement, public health leaders, community organizations, and residents all aligned around shared responsibility and made a deliberate effort to work strategically together. And now at this moment, we must shift from reacting to crisis towards building sustainable public safety. Rather than taking some victory lap, this is a moment where our shared results can allow us to speak a little differently than we have about public safety and crime, about where New Orleans stands nationally on public safety. We collectively are implementing strategies with discipline and consistency, and those strategies are delivering real results. For my office's work this past year was about doing and focusing on two things at once: holding violent offenders accountable in court while laying the groundwork for lasting public safety. The results here that we discussed today are real and are verifiable. You don't have to take my word for it. You don't have to take Chief Kirkpatrick's word for it. You can look at the FBI data. You can talk to Jeff Asher. According to crime data, New Orleans has experienced sustained reductions in the most serious categories of violent crime, including homicides, fatal shootings, and continuing a downward trend that began more than 3 years ago. This is not a one-year anomaly, but part of a longer trajectory. Jeff Asher and other independent analysts have also reported that our homicide rate is the lowest since 1970, placing the city in a fundamentally different position than it was just a few years ago. These outcomes are a product of the targeted, high-quality investigations by the NOPD and other federal law enforcement agencies and state law enforcement agencies, strong prosecutions, disciplined coordination, and a shared accountability across all systems. And I want to challenge our conventional thinking a little bit. We all need to, the general public at home, the news media, law enforcement, we need to understand that there simply is no finish line when it comes to public safety. And sustaining safe communities requires continuous and intentional planning. And we are all here to acknowledge the areas where we have seen success and how we must continue to institutionalize those strategies into a playbook that we can all draw from regardless of whatever happens in any municipal elections. At the Orleans Parish District Attorney's Office, our specialty prosecution units have delivered. I sat before the City Council when we were declared the murder capital of the country, and I said if they funded a homicide unit, we would not be the murder capital when we went back, and we delivered on that promise. Our homicide unit, special victims unit, and sexual assault kit initiative have outperformed historical benchmarks, both in trial results and plea resolutions. This year alone, we brought more cases to trial at Two Linden Broad than any other point in recent history, including an unprecedented number of homicide cases. That reflects an extraordinary confidence. Confidence grounded in the strength of the evidence that has been collected by NOPD detectives on the street. This year, we gave an award to Detective James Fife, whose clearance rate was higher than anything else in this country. And we will continue to celebrate good work of the NOPD because their good work is so important to our results. We're the end users of their work product. And so I want to turn to our homicide unit chief, Matthew Durbis, who will speak on the work of his team, the results they've delivered, and the direction of that work as we move into the new year. Matt?
Thank you, Mr. Williams. You know, we have these press conferences when we have good results and we celebrate the hard work of everybody and everybody involved. But I would just like to say that there are so many people in this office, at the NOPD Crime Lab, at the NOPD, officers on the street, detectives out there, digital analysts going through phone dumps and Instagram records. There's so much work that goes behind the scenes and so many people, part of the criminal justice system, that are working hard every single day, from trial assistants to victim advocates to diversion case managers. Everybody in this building, everybody that works as part of this criminal justice system, people in this room, people not in the room. I think if we were to have a press conference and bring everybody involved who is responsible for the success we've had, we would probably be in the Superdome because there's so many people that are working hard. So it's a huge honor to be a part of that. We've had a lot of success. There's a lot of collaboration that goes on, specifically with the homicide unit, us being a vertical unit, the NOPD having a specialty unit of homicide detectives that work cases all across the city. We meet in this room once a week to go through cases that are still in the investigatory phase. We brainstorm, always striving to present the strongest possible case we can when we get to trial. And so it's a huge honor to be a part of that and to see the measurable results and the reductions that we've seen the last couple of years is just a testament to the work of everybody in this room and outside of it. So thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Before we move any further, I want to acknowledge the work of the Metropolitan Crime Commission, Raphael Goyeneche. Rafi plays a critical role in this ecosystem. He holds my office and every part of the system publicly accountable. And let me be clear, I was at Walmart recently, and a woman said, "Hey, Rafi, he's critical of you." And I said, "Yes, that's a good thing." Iron sharpens iron. Disagreements, critical thinking, criticism, it refines the work. And so just like I told that senior citizen, criticism can be a good thing. And I'm thankful for it. And you know, he doesn't just do it publicly, he texts, he calls. Am I lying, man?
No.
And we meet on a regular basis, and we will continue to meet. And although we don't always agree on every single tactic or every single decision, and my wife, frankly, and I don't always agree on every decision, but disagreement, when it is honest and it's informed, it's not a detriment. It is part of the process. It is a sign of a healthy public safety ecosystem, which is why we asked the MCC to be an early partner in our No Dice initiative. And they gladly stepped up. They sat in one of those chairs and worked collaboratively with city departments and council members and legislators, and the No Dice program brought crime numbers down in certain specific target neighborhoods after Josh Jackson and his team went in and removed that bad element, and we went in and tried to replace it. The tire shop on Claiborne is probably one of the best examples of moving out the bad and moving in the good. But I just want to thank Rafi for his attention to detail always. What matters is that we share the same ultimate goal, a safer community, fairness in the system, and outcomes that actually work to reduce harm. Rafi?
Thank you, Jason. The Crime Commission has been around for 74 years now, and we continue to fill a role, and we want to see improved public safety. And we collect and analyze the numbers, the data. So everybody hangs on what the crime rate is. And we've seen the crime rate go up and down. So the actual numbers of reported crime are just one metric. And if it was so simple as to say that we only needed one metric to establish and determine how effective the system was operating, we wouldn't need to have a prosecutor's office, because if just enough to arrest somebody, then we wouldn't need a DA to impose consequences. But we do. And what we've seen over the last 3 years, that as reported crime has gone down, it's with a police department that it's at its lowest staffing levels that we've seen in over 40 years. So as crime goes down, it allows the understaffed police department to respond to the lower levels of crime in a more timely manner, conduct more thorough investigations, and provide the district attorney's office with the type of evidence that they need to impose consequences on repeat and violent felony offenders. And we recently released a report chronicling the progression of successful prosecutions in the district attorney's office. So Jason Williams has been a DA, the DA in Orleans Parish since 2021. First year was COVID. And over the last 3 years, we've seen steady progress. That's a reflection of the fact that no longer are we seeing criminal justice agencies operate as silos, but as partners in all of this. And it's taken some time. But what we're seeing right now is that the police department is identifying and effectively arresting the violent or repeat offenders. They're presenting credible evidence to the district attorney's office that allows the district attorney's office to convert those arrests into convictions. And as those violent and repeat offenders are removed from the city, they are being held accountable, and they're no longer on the streets to commit future crimes. That's what's driving down the crime rate, and it can't be done by just arrests. It requires the whole system. We also talked about the fact that other indicators that we look at, the inmate population. The inmate population in January of this year is 300 less pretrial inmates than we had at the same point in time last year. How did that go down? The police have been arresting people at the same rate. So it's gone down because the district attorney's office, in conjunction with the public defender's office, and in conjunction with the judiciary and the court, are moving more of those cases. They're being processed out. We're seeing convictions go up. 2/3 of that inmate population are in there for felony crimes of violence and felony weapons offenses. Those are the people that are affecting the quality of life, and they could not be held accountable without sound work done by the investigators and good work done by the district attorney's office. And everybody is rolling up their sleeves, and that's why I believe that the system, for the first time in many years, is recognizing that no one entity can accomplish the objective without working more closely together. And that's why I remain bullish on future improvements going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Rafi. And thank your entire team over at the MCC. You know, there's probably nothing that amplifies the words that Rafi just gave you more than the MCC's work on Division J. Division J had a docket that had ballooned out of control, and Chief Justice Crane stepped in, appointed Chief Judge retired Calvin Johnson and Franz Ziblich to it. We assigned our prosecutors to it, and in record time brought those numbers down simply by having a judge getting there, starting early, staying late, and just working that system. So thank you for that work, Rafi. As he said, prosecutions don't just happen in isolation. It works hand in hand with strong, detailed investigative work and planning with our law enforcement partners. The work of our police department and these gentlemen you see here with me allows us to bring the right people into court and hold the right individuals accountable. The challenges of 2025 required a high level of coordination with our federal partners. Our work with the U.S. Marshals Service and the ATF reflect a historic level of collaboration focused on accountability, precision, and keeping people safe. I want to invite ATF Special Agent in Charge Josh Jackson up, followed by U.S. Marshal Enoch Smith and Deputy Marshal Brian Fair to share some insights on what has worked and their 2026 priorities and how federal coordination continues to strengthen our collective work to combat violent crime. Josh was with us at a number of those key no dice moves. I know some of you all were there, whether it was at the London Lodge, whether it was at the tire shop, whether it was at some of those corner stores, because his team was able to get in and do long investigations and figure out who was involved, and sometimes it wasn't just a couple people from the neighborhood, it was actually people who were running those establishments, and actually build strong cases to remove that element. That work, that protocol, that system, that's being replicated around the state now, and Josh has taken that show on the road, and we couldn't be more thankful for his help with us in our No Dice program. And Josh, I'm not going to steal the thunder for the new level of collaboration that you're working on that will bring some even greater relief to bear in this first quarter of this year. But I'd like for you to share just a little bit about that, because I think the public hears sound bites and tweets and they think, oh, well, this is happening. But listen to Josh lay out the coordinated attack that's moving forward.
Thank you, D.A. Williams. Hey, good afternoon, New Orleans and state of Louisiana. As mentioned, my name is Joshua Jackson. I'm the special agent in charge for the ATF New Orleans Field Division. So I'm responsible for all Louisiana, Mississippi, and Arkansas. And as the DA mentioned, we have taken the wins and successes that we've had here in New Orleans to other parts of the state and also some of these other states that I cover. But ATF's priority and their mission is very simple. I got to have a very simple job, and that is to address and support public safety, address violent crime, and that's the mission of ATF. Things that we accomplished in 2025 that was mentioned and alluded to. You know, I'll give a round of applause to my partners and some of the partners who are not even on the stage, but I really want to thank the community. A lot of these investigations have started with the community reaching out first to the DA's office in OPD. And after that, DA Williams and his team contacts ATF, Ann Kirkpatrick, her team contacts ATF. Then we follow up and do a very focused investigative work on whatever the issue may be. Could be a car wash, that's a hot spot for shootings. It could be a motel that is dealing with human trafficking and narcotics. Could be a tire shop that is a hot spot for shootings and narcotics. Could be a front for a clothing store that is a firearms trafficking hub. Any one of these number of investigations that have been completed that are very focused and deliberate are part of this investigative team, all working in a collaborative way to have the most impact on violent crime in the city. So I want to thank the citizens for being a part of it as we move forward. That's 2025. Those things have worked. We're still going to leverage all those techniques and investigative wins. New for 2026, things that we're going to leverage in the city definitely to kick us off. Governor Landry has made possible for us to have Operation NOLA Safe. Operation NOLA Safe is going to have the National Guard here throughout Mardi Gras season. Operation NOLA Safe is going to have all the federal, state, and local partners, NOPD, Louisiana State Police, FBI, HSI, Marshals, ATF, DEA, working in a collaborative way to do very focused investigations on these individuals that are problem in the city, individuals that have been pre-identified by our partners at the Sheriff's Office that are in the greater New Orleans area. With this investigation, we're going to be able to focus on hotspots in the city with these additional resources. We're going to be able to have overt police presence with the uptick in National Guard and the surge of law enforcement partners. So this is a thing that is going to help kick us off in 2026, but also with the new U.S. Attorney coming in, David Corsell, and other members that are coming in to join the team, we've had many discussions about things that have worked, and we're looking for the uptick in prosecutions and collaborations between the DA Williams' office and also U.S. Attorney's office. So we're looking for having more wins like we've had, that we've experienced throughout 2025, and we had in 2024, and we're building on that. So we look forward as we move forward to 2026 to have more outcomes, more media events of this nature that we can share with the public as we go. And also, again, want to encourage the public to continue to reach out to DA Williams' office, continue to reach out to NOPD, LSP. Let us know what the areas in your city and in the community are a problem. We're here to address those issues, to do focused, proactive investigations, to hold those accountable who are surging the violent crime, and also to identify those who are not involved, and so that they are not impacted and we can make sure that the community is safer. So looking forward to more of these, and I'll leave you with this, more to come in 2026.
Josh always leaves with more to come, because there is more to come. But something special about the relationship with the National Guard coming in is them working hand in hand with ATF and NOPD, right? Because it's not just enough that somebody winds up in handcuffs. There needs to be a report and an investigation if you want to get a conviction in court, and that will make all of the difference. The U.S. Marshal Service typically does not get the amount of credit it deserves. Some of you may remember the Tommy Lee Jones movies about these guys never sleeping. It's true. They're about as cool as Tommy Lee is in that movie. I've known Enoch Smith a long time. I've known Brian Fair a long time. There have been cases that we would not have been able to prosecute if they did not hunt folks down who through 5-6 different states to bring them to justice. The jailbreak would not have come to the end that it came to without the work of U.S. Marshal Smith and Brian Fair. So I'd like for you to hear from them because what they've done really, it does keep the machine moving. U.S. Marshal Smith.
Thank you, DA. Having a positive working relationship with DA Williams has produced some of the most promising things that I wish to have seen when I first started my tenure as marshal as far as fighting crime. My deputies and his prosecutors, they have had the opportunity to collaborate on various cases, and which resulted in some arrests of some of the worst violent offenders in our city. And ultimately, that makes our community safer. And I think with DA Williams' vision for the upcoming year on how we're going to progress, I think we have great days ahead. So I thank you for that, Jason.
Thank you. Brian, I know you're a man of few words. Let the people hear from the guy, not on some phone camera in Atlanta or Albuquerque or wherever you hunt folks down.
I'll make it really brief. It's about partnerships. Our agency is successful mainly because of our partnerships. We work with local, state, and federal partners regularly. We train with these partners regularly. That's why we're so successful. Most of our arrests go off without a hitch, which is good for both the people we're arresting and for us. It's mainly because of the training and all the effort we put into that. And we rely on the public support as well, either via Crime Stoppers tips or the news reporting on some of the people that we're looking for. This is a total partnership, and that's why we're successful, only because of our partners.
Thank you, Brian. It's usually really hard to get him to talk on a microphone, so I'm glad you could actually put a name to the face of someone who's done some really amazing work. One of the clearest examples of how coordination works to our collective benefit is our No Dice initiative. No Dice brings agencies and community partners together around a shared source of truth, data, that shared goal of reducing harm and preventing crime when possible. Instead of these simple, isolated responses, they diagnose the root causes, asking the simple question, what can we do to reduce violence in this location? That approach has led to tangible outcomes, removing chronic blight, reviving safe spaces for children, shutting down problematic establishments, and addressing environments that repeatedly generate violence. This is about precision, not overreach. The communities are in lockstep with this work. In fact, they guide it. They're not simply spectators in the work. They're often some of the first people to see the warning signs at that 24-hour tire shop or the London Lodge. No Dice restores that sense of agency to community members, treating residents as partners and supporting communities with solutions that they lead. This effort is about solving problems, not shifting them to another block. I'd like to invite Daniel Shanks, who has masterfully led this work and this effort for our office. And Daniel will talk about some of the major successes and what constant collaboration has meant for the city and what it can mean for this new administration moving forward. Daniel.
Thank you, DA. When I was drawn back to this office almost 3 years ago, it was because of a shared vision. It was one shared by the DA and Chief Godin, and the vision asked us to look beyond prosecuting cases one by one and instead understand the wider context of violent crime, why it happens, where it concentrates, and what systems either fuel it or prevent it. And what's really the marker of this moment is something that Mr. Goyeneche mentioned. How is it that we have had a 55% reduction in violent crime with a police agency that has its lowest levels of officers in all time? And that's because it is a group lift. And it's a group lift that is strategic. It's not just everybody responding. It is having data drive us. It is using risk terrain modeling, geo and temporal analysis to really understand not where crime is occurring, but why. And what do you do with the why? What you do with the why is figure out the exact treatment. You have a diagnosis, and then you have a precise treatment. Sometimes we're calling the ATF and asking them to intervene in a place that is dealing fentanyl, where we are having human trafficking. In other occasions, we're working with Ubuntu, who does Heal the Block programs, and asking them to come out to playgrounds to make sure that the residents around there have the resources that they need to serve their community. Sometimes it's working with NOLA Connect in these neighborhoods that are beset by gun crime, making sure that they have economic mobility opportunities just like everywhere else in the city. So it is of immense importance to recognize this moment that it's not just everybody stepping up, but it's stepping up in a meaningful way, in a strategic way, and that's what No Dice is all about. No Dice is nothing more than a convener, a coordinator, a program that allows us to see the problem and work together to solve it. And we've seen those amazing results when we all come together, not just from community, not just from the business community, but with city services all the way from mosquito control to the ATF. And we've seen that in Treme, where we saw last year a almost 80% reduction in gun crime. We've seen that in Hardin Park, where we saw a 42% reduction in gun crime. St. Bernard Avenue, Ulloa and South Pierce, that almost saw a 70% reduction in gun crime. These are important moments, not to celebrate, but to recognize what works. Because it's easy to say that we reduce crime. What's hard? The hard part is sustaining those gains. And over the last 2 years, we have sustained that. And we should be proud of that. But most importantly, it's a moment of reflection. What has worked, and how do we institutionalize that? And I want to thank DA Williams for having that vision, for looking upstream to see why the folks are falling in the river rather than just grabbing them out of the river. And we get this important window at the DA's office as assistant district attorneys. Everybody knows the charismatic DA, Jason Williams. He's everybody's best friend. You can be in a bar room, you can be in a church, you can be at a corner store, and they say, oh, Jason, we go back. He's a good friend. Everyone. But what we get to see is a man who has a deep-seated passion for this city, its residents, and their safety. And he knows that change is not made, or impact is not made through incremental change. You have to have big, audacious goals. Then you have to innovate. And then you have to work 110%. And that is what has happened over the last 2.5 years, DA Williams, and because of that leadership, and because of that degree of coordination and bringing everybody together, we have not only reduced crime, we have sustained those reductions. So I want to thank you for the privilege and the opportunity to be in this office. It has been some of the most purpose-driven work that I have done here, and I'm looking forward to carrying this work forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you for your commitment. Thank you for coming from the private sector to get in this fight. I know you got mouths to feed at home, but you stepped up in such a major way. And prevention is so much more important than just solving a case. And so when you start talking about public health is public safety, violence rarely begins in a courtroom. It's often tied to trauma, addiction, untreated mental illness, and economic instability. That's why we have focused and spent a lot of time this past summer meeting with folks to talk about a public health and public safety master plan, one that connects prevention, intervention, and accountability into one single citywide strategy. My team has worked very closely with Dr. Jenna Vegno to do this work. I'm so thankful to our new mayor for keeping Dr. Vegno on. The most effective public strategy is preventing harm before it happens, and Dr. Vegno absolutely realizes that and has formed a critical partnership with Ubuntu Village, incredible messengers, people like Danny Allen, who are embedded in the community because they are a part of the community, to learn where basic needs and social services are needed so they can get in that dice game that's turning hot, where somebody's mad because they're about to lose $20 but about to cost themselves the rest of their lives if they pull out a gun because they're angry or because they lost a dice game. And Danny steps in and has that conversation. Police never hear about that incident. We never hear about that incident. The children on that block don't hear gunshots. And so I'd like for you to hear from Ernest Johnson, who's been a constant in this community, serving when nobody is watching, trying to ensure safe spaces and opportunities for our young people. A deed that is valued is no less valued because nobody saw it, because he has saved countless lives. I'd like to invite Mr. Johnson from the village to come up and speak to you about what that work looks like on the ground. Mr. Johnson.
Thank you for having me today, and I want to echo what most people have said, in particular District Jason Williams, is that we all have one common goal, and that's to end violence, and particularly in homicides, because I can't imagine the loss of life for any individual. It wouldn't be possible without the New Orleans Health Department, our partnership with the University Medical Center, Children Manny's Hospital with their gun safe giveaway distribution. But our common goal is to intervene and prevent crimes from happening. And we understand being in the community takes a lot of trust. And what we are trying to do in those particular communities is have prevention measures around our Heal a Block events and bringing resources to the underserved communities, understanding that social deterrence is a lot of the cases where crime may bubble up from. So looking forward to 2026 and expanding to be very, very intentional about bringing those resources to underdeserved communities and making sure that those people have the necessary tools to reach their full potential. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ernest. That through line of prevention, that through line of everybody in the community realizing they have a role to play, that continues forward. And looking into 2026 and beyond, we have to have our focus on sustainability. We cannot afford to backslide. We have seen cycles of violence in this community like hurricane season. It is not a fait accompli. We do not have to go backwards. We do not have to have another crime spike. And that's why we have to look at what's worked throughout this past year and have that comprehensive plan that ties to prevention, intervention, and a single strategy. We, along with our partners, have consistently worked to establish these methodologies with proven results, connecting downstream consequences to upstream prevention. But this plan speaks to the role of our business community. Rafi knows how to measure outcomes. Ernest knows, and Danny know, they know if they get involved when there's a conflict that's getting hot, they know if they can cool it down, shots won't be fired. But a lot of time, our businesses, our nonprofits, they don't know where they can fit in to this fight. And this is so much about the role of everyone in this fight. Michael Heck, the president and CEO of G&O Inc., has really leaned in a very serious, very meaningful way to coordinate a broad coalition of people and organizations from various disciplines under the NOLA Coalition umbrella. But he's also worked through his own organization, G&O Inc., to stand in the gap on the ground to revitalize spaces and bring economic vitality and opportunity to areas where there has been none for a long time. Just because we move a bad actor out doesn't mean a good actor is going to come in without that support. So I want to have Michael come up and speak to you a bit about his work throughout the past 3 years and the NOLA Coalition's work and what's on tap moving forward in 2026. Because when you think about it, when you think about what happened in the first quarter of this year, with the same type of strategic coordination that Daniel's doing with No Dice, we had Michael Heck doing it for the state, for Super Bowl, for Taylor Swift, for the first 3 quarters after an unprecedented terror attack. And it went off without a hitch. And I couldn't be more thankful. We were up against a lot. But please hear from Michael to talk about everyone's collective role in making sure that we don't backslide, but we get New Orleans out of the top 5 most dangerous places, and then out of the top 10, and then out of the top 20. Michael?
D.A. Williams, thank you so much, and everybody up here. It's really humbling to be up here with a group of individuals who are so talented and so dedicated, and I think something that gets left out is so creative. Programs like No Dice, which have totally changed the purview of what a district attorney's office would have done in the past, have been absolute game changers. So it's nice to be included. When we started the NOLA Coalition a little over 3 years ago, we could not have imagined that we would, 3 years later, after being in the worst crisis of violence in the country, be here at an historic 50-year low of violence. And I think another point that has to be made for those that say that we're just riding the tide of national trends, our reduction, as it was said, in homicide, which is the most trenchant way to measure it, has been about 3 times the national average. So this is not just us going along to get along. This is us doing something different and doing something better. But as the DA said, we really have to get to the left side of the disaster curve. No matter how good we get at response times, any response time is too much because it means that somebody's been hurt. And so at the NOLA Coalition, which now is about 600 some odd members, black and white, Democrat, Republican, from across the city and the region, I think the most diverse business and civic coalition in New Orleans history. Our focus is going to be on helping to sustain these results. We're going to be supporting the NOPD on the recruiting and retention, because even though we're doing more with less, we need to focus on recruiting. We're going to focus on trying to get firearms out of the French Quarter. It's our belief that they have no business there. We're going to focus on constitutional use of technology as a way of preventing and solving crime. And we're going to continue to raise funds and invest in our youth through programs like NOLA Connect. And I think most importantly for everybody who's up here, what you have to know is that the business and civic community will never any longer simply complain about conditions. There is now a sense of shared responsibility, and you can count on us to be there for you and the city, and most importantly for our children. So thank you, everybody, and I'll hand it back to our charismatic DA.
Thank you for stepping up and continue to step up, Michael. It's true, people will ask, what can I do to help? And sometimes they need a little guidance, and the NOLA Coalition has done that. I am so encouraged by the leadership around me and the teams that they have worked with. I'm also very encouraged by the leadership that's stepping into place in this city, as well as a sheer number of people and organizations who are committed to doing their part in this city in an unprecedented way. Michael said it best. There is a national trend, but the city of New Orleans is leading that trend. And if we work collaboratively together strategically, we will continue to lead. Mayor-elect Moreno has already demonstrated her commitment to public safety and public health through her key early decisions. The team that she's put together, Michael Harrison over there, Jenna Vegno, Joe Giarrusso, the dedicated cabinet members who have already been doing the work and are prepared to hit the ground running next week. There's not many times you get elected and you start working before you get sworn in, but I'm very thankful that they have. The fiscal realities facing this city are real. Responsible stewardship means protecting what works and being honest about what doesn't. When resources are limited, coordination is not optional. It is essential. Coordinated strategies through those like No Dice and the NOLA Coalition and Joint Task Force with the ATF and our other partners, that has made all the difference. And it has not cost us new money to do these things. We have the wind at our back. The momentum is grounded in evidence and will be sustained through sound strategy and partnerships. That is why we must endeavor to lay out a master plan that outlives councilmanic terms, DA terms, and mayoral terms. We need to make sure that public safety gains never fall backwards. We have to keep that momentum going, and in 2026, we're committed to doubling down on the good work that we've been able to do together. And with that, Keith, we'll take any questions.
Open up for all time of questions, starting with Alyssa from WWL.
Monday, Chief Kirkpatrick had a press conference kind of detailing where we stood at the end of 2025. She said a lot of our homicides and non-fatal shootings are a result of gun violence and known offenders and people who may not, they shouldn't have guns on them. How do we target that specifically to make sure that not only do our homicides and our shootings go down, but we are protecting these people who are victims of gun violence?
Number one, having credible messengers like Danny and Mr. Ernest in community, encouraging better decision-making at those flashpoints, at those hot spots, that's critical. We also don't need as many guns in untrained young hands in this community. Louisiana is sportsman's paradise, but downtown New Orleans is not. And there's no place for guns outside of the hands of law enforcement in crowded areas like that. Even a trained law enforcement person like the folks on my left who might be crack shots cannot get off a good shot in a crowd of 300, right? So we have to be smart about that. I'm hoping that our legislative delegation will have better success at the Capitol about allowing us to augment certain things about where you can have a gun. Parade routes, festivals, those aren't places where guns should be.
My second question, you guys kind of touched on it, but obviously lowering the crime rate is great and arrests are great. We've had a lot of criticism on our city for the judicial system. It seems like from what you're saying is that we're at a better place now than we may have been 5 years ago with getting these cases closed and shut. Can you talk about where we stand now and how do we continue that progress?
Absolutely. And look, a lot of times when you, you have that phrase, one bad apple makes you think apples are really terrible, right? There was a report about one section of court, right? But, the public hears about it and they're like, oh, the judges, right? And every judge is different. They have judicial discretion. They get to decide sentences. They get to decide who gets a bail. But when you look at the fact that you had a docket that was almost twice the size of some of other sections of court, and the Supreme Court got involved. Congratulations to Justice Crane, who's now been appointed to the federal bench. He rolled up his sleeves. He came over here. We sat down. We worked. He got former Judge Calvin Johnson and Ziblitz there. They divided up that docket. We got our DAs in there. We worked. We reduced that docket in a record in a record amount of time. System works. Folks got to show up every morning early and stay till the job is done in order for it to continue to work and for it to work well. And when there is criticism, let's not get mad about the criticism. let's see if we can focus and hone and do better, all of us collectively. Oh, let me say this. Tulane Broad is the busiest courtroom in the city, it's the busiest courtroom in the state. And when you compare it to the number of trials in other big cities, and how some, like, I mean, a trial in Los Angeles, one homicide trial, might last 3 months. That is not what's happening at Tulane and Broad. It is a very, very busy place, and that's why people burn out so quickly sometimes.
Next question from Joseph at Axios.
Sorry.
I don't see you way over there.
I just had a quick question, hopefully for especially to Jackson.
Sure.
You mentioned the NOLA Safe program, partnership rather. Can you tell us a little bit more about what citizens can expect to see on the ground with that this year? Does that look like more federal law enforcement or National Guard troops outside of the French Quarter? What can we look for?
Yeah, what that's going to look like, you're going to see the National Guard. There's going to be a surge of our National Guard partners. This is no different than what we did after the terror attack, what we did through the Sugar Bowl, Super Bowl, Mardi Gras of last year. So that's something that the city has seen. They're there to be an overt presence. You're also going to see a surge in uniform police. That's going to be in the area to make sure our citizens and our visitors are safe, and that they're there to quickly respond and to avert things that happened last year for New Year's, right? Things that you're not going to see in the community, but you guys, this is going to be underway, is that the federal partners, we're going to be in lockstep and working with our state and local partners. So NOPD, LSP, a lot of times how their investigations start, they might make an arrest, they might have a call for service, okay, and they recover a firearm from a convicted felon, somebody who's dangerous. A lot of times we don't get that investigative report to the next day or maybe a week later. Just depends. But what we're doing now under Operation NOLA Safe is that our federal agents are going to be in lockstep and present overnight during the day with those state and local partners, so that when they do have a call for service that is something that should be considered for federal prosecution, we're going to be right there. That's not something that the public's going to see. We're covert, plain clothes. They're not going to really notice us. But what you're going to see is that we're going to be able to identify individuals who are a focus of the city that is a violent crime problem, somebody who is prohibited, should not have firearms, somebody that is an active shooter, somebody that is wanted for homicides. We're going to be picking all those people up and presenting them to D.A. Williams' office and also to the U.S. Attorney's office under Mr. Cassell. So those are things that the city of New Orleans should expect under Operation NOLA Safe.
And just to clarify, I think we've had some expectation the National Guard will be visible through Mardi Gras. Are you anticipating this lasting longer than that?
It depends. It depends, and it's above my pay grade. I'm going to leave it up to Governor Landry and to the White House to make those decisions of how long they want to keep the National Guard in. But for right now, the National Guard will be here with us for the foreseeable future to help us kick off 2026. And we welcome them here and their additional manpower and support in the city.
All right, we'll make the Fox 8.
I guess this is going toward Jason Williams. Yeah, what are your thoughts of the National Guard on the street? Like, what are your thoughts and feelings about that?
Well, you know, you've got sort of what the national landscape has looked like, but that's very different from what you just heard Special Agent Jackson describe. What's happening in the city of New Orleans is a bit more unique, it's a bit more nuanced. Having detectives, investigators, agents paired with the National Guard means there's an actual investigation of a crime so that we have something to prosecute. A big guy or a woman with a camouflage and a rifle, that's a presence, but that's not going to produce a police report that can lead to an investigation that actually holds someone accountable. So Josh just laid out a very strong strategy on using federal resources in a way that it can benefit the city.
Next one, Missy with NOLA.com.
Afternoon. So you've been speaking a lot about agencies not being siloed so much. Our own sheriff-elect, Bookwork is a good example of that, from chief to your office. I'm curious about how our work with your office might inform our strategies as sheriff moving forward.
You know, look, we are, I think Rafi said it earlier, it's an ecosystem. When one thing doesn't work well, it burdens the other system. As of right now, I was talking to one of the judges over at Tulane and Broad, and her staff was working a whole lot longer because they had to hand walk paper over to the sheriff's office to make sure the right people stayed in jail and the right people were released who were supposed to be released. So, you know, anytime someone gets an opportunity to get under a hood or work at another agency, they develop a little bit more of context about why certain things are important at one agency to another. Extraditions, all those things are gravely important, but sometimes it's hard, even once you're elected, even if you've been doing it for a while, to realize how your decision or lack of decision or action or lack of an action will impact one of your fellow agencies. So I tell you, as soon as Michael Harrison retired in Baltimore, he was about one step off the stage. I was calling him till he picked up to get him back to New Orleans, and I was glad that he came on. I was glad that he could partner with Daniel and No Dice, and the fact that he's now been tapped to work with the Moreno administration makes me very excited for public safety in this community, because he's worked for 4 mayors in 2 cities with crime reductions in both during his tenure. Chief Woodfork was an amazing partner. After she was appointed, she was at my house, my 7-year-old running around, and we were talking about things that we needed to focus on and prioritize, and we did in short order. And that was that first year of success of the 3 years that we're talking about. So as soon as she retired from the police department, I tried to snatch her up and get over here to work in our digital forensics unit. And so understanding how we work, how we operate, I mean, frankly, our OSINT team was reviewing jail calls using artificial intelligence to synthesize through volumes and volumes of calls and get that information to Brian and U.S. Marshal Smith so that they could go find those places where those folks were bedding down, right? And so having Michelle partnered in OSINT, sending that information out, going through that experience before she was even elected, it is just building muscle memory in a way that this city hasn't had in a long time. So that sort of connective tissue is unprecedented, and I really think it yields to better work product for the people of this community.
Anything from WTNL? WDSU? Anything else to listen?
Thank you all so much.
Thank you, guys.